Hello, fellow Bandicoot enthusiasts. It's me, JMac, your second favourite Twinsanity developer. Welcome back to part 2 of our look at Crash Evolution, the game that never was. As you can see, I'm up here in my personal airship, which I bought with my Crash Twinsanity completion bonus. Coming up in this video, hang on. Coming up, we're going to discover what is a gaudi greenhouse, what or who is a foofie, and most importantly of all, did Ratchet and Clank steal all our best ideas? I just don't know. Let's tune in and find out.
The fourth world is the greenhouse world. It's also known as Gaudi world because it's the art style very similar to a Gaudi art style.
That's Gaudi, the Spanish architect, who, if you ever go to Barcelona, you'll see his architecture everywhere.
Yeah. So there, again, this is Rich album one, I believe. Another Rich. You can see the two different styles that he had. He had the trying to mimic the original Crash Zambella style and then his own style here. Yeah. So and another one. This is inside the greenhouses.
There was the different levels of this world were. Each was a different greenhouse and there was a different theme in each one. Yeah. And I remember the loose theme of the one that I was working on was science greenhouse. And we had some vague ideas that there'd be like hot and cold puzzles and stuff like that. But once again, it was kind of so early, we didn't have anything functional really working. No means to actually get much gameplay in the game. Like the scripting system wasn't really up and running. So we made a lot of art assets, we made a lot of block worlds, the character artist made a lot of enemies and animated them, but we just didn't have, because it was such a new studio, we had new technology, we were trying to pull everything together, but we just didn't have the means to glue it all together to make something actually playable.
Do you think it was just a really ambitious project?
I think there was too many high level kind of arty ideas. Like, my takeaway from this whole thing was, for me at least, to stop faffing around with these fancy ideas. Just get something in the game that you play, that you interact with, that's fun to interact with. You know, it all starts with the player holding a controller, controlling a character, the character doing stuff in the world. For me, that's what has to come first. So once we dumped it and started again, I was like always trying things out, making little gameplay test levels, just making sure it was fun before I bothered, worrying about whether it was Gaudi style or on a balloon city. Does that make any sense?
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
So caves as well. There's cave areas too, which we see here. You can see they're the same because they've got the lights, the flowers that light up. Yeah, cool. And then the core, the twins core, so this will be the final. Here, these are the final.
These are the Wumpa. I remember. I think
they appear in the middle of every level. As a kind of central point where the Wumpa would have been drained, and the twins would have built these in the centre of each.
I got a vague memory that when Chris, that's our mate Chris Abdul Messiah.
Yeah.
When he joined, I think one of the first things he worked on was a 3D model of this refinery. Right. I remember suddenly seeing it in the game after seeing the concept art for months. And I was like, that looks all right. Yeah. But yeah, soon after he made it, it probably just got binned.
Right. And this is the interior of them.
Yeah.
And then this is the core. This is the Danny Flynn concept for what the core itself.
Yeah. Each of those spokes would go out to one of the worlds, and those pipes is what is sucking all the Wumpa fruit energy. I really like the idea of Wumpa fruit being used as like a power source, because in the other Crash games, they're kind of just like you get 100 of them and you get an extra life. And with this game, we kind of were thinking, is there any point to have lives in video games anymore? Like, it was kind of an outdated concept at that point. So we're like, if we haven't got extra lives, why do we need Wumpa fruit? Yeah. And I actually thought this was quite a good solution. It becomes central to the plot of the game. We also had, I don't know if we've got any concept art of this, we had the concept of Wumpa gates. The player would be collecting Wumpa fruit not to give themselves extra lives, but to use as a currency to pay their way through parts of the levels. Yeah, a bit like the Crystal Gate on here. I've seen in some of the levels, level plans, talking about Wumpa gates, and that was the whole point. You'd collect the Wumpa fruits in the level, and you'd know that it was tied into progressing, and you'd be able to decide, like, I've got 1,000 Wumpa fruit, do I unlock this gate, do I unlock this one? So kind of gives you that,
choose your route.
Yeah, kind of gives you the non-linearity, which we kind of ended up not really having much non-linearity, didn't we?
Yeah, and I think actually in the initial Twinsanity game levels, some of that pay gate, because you see in stuff at the library for the school level, the pay gate idea was originally kind of copied over from that. It was phased out, but when we started on the Twinsanity idea, some of the pay gate stuff did move over with it. So yeah. And Foofie, John. So Foofie was
this was our plan to have a new mechanic in the game. It wasn't my idea, so I'm probably going to get things wrong, but the idea, well, there's various ideas. Part of it is based on Jak and Daxter. You had the main character, you had a little weasel that followed him around, sat on his shoulder. For some reason, everyone really liked the way that when you did a spin in Jak and Daxter, you'd kind of really get to see the weasel, Daxter, as he's known, kind of wheeling around as you span. Maybe you can edit that in. Yeah. And so part of this was we wanted a little character to work with Crash that would kind of trail behind him when he span around and give him lots of extra gameplay as well. So he could use it as a lasso. Here we go. This is
swing in.
Yeah.
So yeah, loop around there. You can even use it to do the whole kind of thing with some enemies.
Yeah. So the reason it says riding Chi enemies. So the story behind Foofie, he was some sort of alien that appeared from one of the other worlds that the twins had brought together. Foofie liked Chi grass, and this was what would designate the things that you could interact with. You'd see this Chi grass, you'd know, I'm going to use Foofie at him and see what happens. So you'd have enemies in the game that had Chi grass on their back. Yep. You'd have, if you scroll up a bit, you can see this swinging here. He's swinging on the wall. There'd be like Chi grass on the wall. You could use it to swing on. And we never really had it working that well. We had a kind of swing on the roof mechanic, which can also be seen in that prototype video that you mentioned. The other reason to have Foofie was it would be what bound Crash and Cortex together and made them work together, because we were always like, we want to have Crash and Cortex working together, but how can we justify why they're working together? And so this would have been Foofie linking them together for reasons that I can't quite remember. We really liked... is it Ico?
Yeah, Ico.
Ico.
Was there something called Whiplash as well? Was there a game called Whiplash? I've got a feeling...
Yeah, I vaguely remember that.
Right.
But yeah, so Ico was a game that was quite big at the time, and it was two characters working together, and you got lots of interesting gameplay, and that was the original reason why we wanted Crash and Cortex working together.
Yeah.
But as you know, in the end, Foofie got dropped, and we replaced it with... we're going to be fighting over a crystal, and that's why they're linked together instead.
In terms of Foofie, so they're kind of like a couple of different visual ideas. So you had this kind of snake, yellow snake-looking thing, which you see here, and again, here's that thing of them working together. Here he is. There's a yellow snake version. Then also you got this blue version, which you see artwork with him in that version too, where you see Paul's done a render of the same.
I don't ever remember seeing that.
Yeah, so this is obviously from later, because we've got Nina there, who wouldn't have been in Evolution at all. So that's Nina. This is just a mock-up later, but that's that model there.
Can I put you up on that? You say Nina would never have been in Evolution,
yeah.
but the character did actually exist before that, because
in a racing game.
Trash. Traveller's Tales Oxford were originally pitching to work on a Crash Team racing game, and that's where the character Nina Cortex was originally. Maybe you could put that bit of concept art up when I say that.
She was for about a year, so she was out of the picture for the whole of 2002, and then came back in 2003 with the new Twinsanity kind of direction. So yeah, so we got those, and then let's have a quick look at these documents. Here we go, and I mentioned before that Foofie was originally a yo-yo. The idea was a yo-yo, so here we go. We've got
and was called Foofie by the look of it.
So yo-yo kind of backwards, I guess. So
I don't remember ever. I'd never remember seeing this or hearing about Foofie. This obviously predated me.
Very early on. Let's see what we got here. We got some later Foofie documents. Foofie lives on Crash's right hand, acts like a yo-yo.
I mean, this is a brainstorming document. This is not a design document. This is obviously one of the designers who I work with, who we've decided not to name just in case they don't want to be associated with it. He's just brainstorming ideas. So So eventually, I mean. This would have been what the final design document for Foofie was based on.
It is the Chi Grass interaction stuff. So ceiling Chi.
Yeah, more brainstorming.
Yeah, so got that. So there's a little bit of footage here of Foofie, which you've seen before, swinging around.
So Keith, I see you found this interesting document here.
Yeah.
We've talked before about Ratchet and Clank came out and really threw a spanner in the works because they kind of took the sci-fi platformer idea and just kind of did a really good job of it. After that point, what do you think we thought after that?
Well, I think one of the reasons why the direction changed from the space. The mashing of the space worlds together was the concern that it was getting too close to something else that was announced, which was Ratchet and Clank, and the fact that used the exact same mechanism as its basic story and the kind of sci-fi elements. And I always thought that was the case, and other people did, but here in documents we can see that there was talk of avoiding any similarity of Ratchet and Clank going forwards, and banning of going into space from then on.
I think this is
from Universal.
Yeah,
the mandate to say we can't use the space.
I think this document here is when we were kind of in a transitional period. We liked the space ideas. We couldn't really do it anymore. We were trying to figure out what to do next, and I think this was before we got Dave Robinson came over from Universal and worked with us, and it's when he started. That's when we started to focus on the game being humorous rather than being, sci-fi. And this was just in this weird transitional period when we didn't really know what we were doing. Quite interesting. We all really liked Ratchet and Clank when it came out, and we were a bit peeved that it was it used a lot of our ideas and did them really well.
So Ratchet and Clank, who did that? Was it Insomniac?
Insomniac, I think, And I remember we'd been working for ages trying to get the Foofie swing mechanic working, and then you're kind of running through a level in Ratchet and Clank. He kind of goes bonk. You hang on with your wrench, you swing around, you jump off. Really simple, worked really well, and we were kind of like, our swinging mechanic just looks pretty rubbish in comparison. So I think that's one of the reasons we abandoned that. That's like, I guess we were thinking, let's stick with what we know, which is what ended up with kind of traditional Crash style levels and humorous cutscenes.
Yeah, so there you go.
Hello, fellow Bandicoot enthusiasts. It's me, JMac, your second favourite Twinsanity developer. Welcome back to part 2 of our look at Crash Evolution. We've had to split this one into 3 pieces. Knew that was going to happen.